On this episode of the Create Podcast, we sat down with Greg. He's the owner of IE Toy Store here in Redlands. We're in his shop right now. It's on Redlands Boulevard, and it is one of my favorite stores on the planet. They have an incredible selection of vintage toys, whether you're into Star Wars, He-Man, Ninja Turtles, wrestling memorabilia, which he's a huge wrestling fan. Amazing selection here.
Yeah, it is well stocked, as you can see, and well curated. He even has like a whole collection of She-Ra, the Princess of Power, which in all of our searching, I've never seen before. This is my favorite.
He even has a $5 table out front, which I stop by at least once a week to see what he has. Handful of Star Wars action figures I picked up here from all across the board. Just a great selection. So we talked about how we got into it. Like I said, he's a huge wrestling fan, has a ton of memorabilia from belts signed by Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. We talked about his story and used to buy storage units and then got into collecting and obviously selling. So great spot. If you're a toy collector at all, you definitely want to come out to his shop. But we hope you enjoy the conversation and listening to it and watching it as much as we had spending time with them. Just a great guy and a great shop. So hope you enjoy this podcast.
This is the Create Podcast.
So what does your daughter think of your shop and what you do?
She don't go over there too much just because, but she thinks it's cool.
Yeah.
And then we bring the wrestlers in. She thinks that's cool, But I mean, my boys, they're to the point now where it's not a big deal to them. Your dad owns a toy store.
Yeah.
And
They're like, whatever.
Yeah, and like the WWF wrestlers, these are guys that I grew up with that are my heroes.
Yeah.
And now my youngest son, that's all he loves wrestling, And so, but now it's like we told him, Zack Ryder's coming tomorrow, and Kurt Hawkins and Hornswoggle, and he's like, okay,
No big deal.
Yeah, like the who the Boogeyman is?
Yeah,
that's their adopted uncle now, but he's their godfather. So I mean, he's close to all of them. When we go out there and visit, because we go out for vacation and visit Boogeyman, and like Bobby Lashley was at his house. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah.
And Mark Henry was out there. And he says, we go meet all these guys, go have dinner with them, and it's like, to my kids, it's like, it's nothing no more, And I'm like, geez.
They're just friends.
How many kids would be,
You're like, what a life you lead, kids.
Yeah, I know. So, but she's, it's still kind of a lot for her, I think, because she's not used to none of this. And, but, so.
Yeah. When did you start the shop? How long have you had it?
Let's see. Trying to think. I've been where I'm at now for almost 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
And then I was open 3 before that, so almost 8 years now we've been open.
Wow. Okay.
We actually started in. Are we recording now?
Yeah.
Okay,
we just kind of get a rolling start.
So we actually started in the Redlands Thrift.
Oh, cool.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
My buddy, his mom and dad own the store.
Okay.
And he would always tell me, "Hey, man, open a spot in here, And so when I got out of the military, I started a hauling company. We cleaned out foreclosed homes, and I would always have so much leftovers that was salvageable stuff, and I would always save it and have huge garage sales, And I would always tell my wife, I said, man, I would love to just have a store instead of having to go to the swap meet, having a garage sale.
Right.
But the overhead was just so, crazy expensive. Yeah. And I said, no, we'll just wait. We'll just wait.
Just keep doing what we're doing.
So he came. Well, remember when Blockbuster Video went out of business?
Yeah.
Hollywood Video? Well, that's another thing I did. I went in and I started buying all the Blockbusters out. And I would have...
Nice.
You'd buy their inventory?
I'd buy their whole inventory,
wow.
buy the whole
That's
store.
amazing.
Because they were going out of business.
Yeah.
And then I would take them to the swap meet and sell
okay.
thousands of movies in a weekend,
That's awesome.
And so eventually my buddy talked me into opening a store in his mom and dad's thrift store. They turned it into kind of like an indoor swap meet at one point. So I got 250 square feet, which was not very much.
Yeah.
And but I filled it up with DVDs, and then I put some collectibles along the walls, And within the first month, I built already a clientele. People knew I was selling the movies in there, and it just went crazy. I couldn't keep movies on the shelf.
Wow.
So then I went and asked him if I can move up to a bigger spot within about 3 months, and then I tripled my space.
Wow.
And it just, from there, the collectibles took off.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I just turned into a toy store somehow. It was crazy.
It's
like
such
it just
a
happened.
great, obviously I collect toys, and it's definitely one of, if not the best toy store, like with the collection that you have
Thank you.
that you've been to. Usually I'll go into a toy store, or maybe it's like collect cards and they have collectibles as well. And I'll look through and maybe I'll see one or two things that I want. But when I go to your store, it's like, all right, I have to limit. Like, there's just so many great things. You do a great job.
Appreciate that.
If you don't mind, pull your mic. You can. This swings. Just put it as close to your mouth as possible.
Is that better?
Yeah, but because we moved in this office earlier in the year, and we weren't too familiar with Redlands. Actually, I heard about your store. A friend of ours, Larry, he owns a store in Upland called Out of Time.
Okay.
And he has a he has an arcade, and then he has toys and collectibles as well. So we had him on the podcast, and he actually told us about about your shop. And so he's like, "Do you know there's a great store that's right around the corner?" But I went to, but yeah. So what was that transition? So were you buying storage units at that time too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That was before there was ever on TV, and I wasn't doing a whole lot, but but it was enough to keep me going with the movies and everything. So I was doing a little bit of everything.
Okay.
And it just eventually the DVDs kind of started moving out, going slower, and people weren't buying them. Everything was going digital, And then people were bringing me toys and saying, "Hey, you want to buy my collection?" And I just started finding toys more and more different spots, and I don't know. I just turned one day. I look and it's a toy store. I can't explain it. Yeah, I mean, I've been very, very blessed. That's all I can say is we've been blessed that we've been fortunate to have such a beautiful store and beautiful customers, and we've been very lucky.
Yeah, it's a perfect time because you have, like, especially guys my age that I grew up in '80s, and so like Star Wars and G.I. Joe and all of that was like I was right at that prime age when toys were just taking off, action figures, and they were just, it seemed like every few months or every year there was a whole new different line, He-Man, Ninja Turtles, and so there's a ton of guys and girls out our age that either had them when they were a kid, or you wanted them and your parents wouldn't buy them, or you didn't have any money. And so it's like, I have some extra money. And so there seems to be a pretty big market of, we're kind of in that sweet spot of guys in their 30s, 40s, 50s that now want the stuff they either couldn't have or that they used to have.
Well, and it's interesting too, because like there's a huge interest from like our kids in that whole era. Like, our almost 18-year-old cannot find enough 90s clothes right now. Like, I was telling somebody yesterday that he found this, like, it's the ugliest shirt I've ever seen, but it's like total 90s, like, it's like a Guess shirt that's like purple and teal striped, and he's wearing the big giant pants, and so it's funny, like that like circle of life kind of thing that that he was totally into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a kid, and so it's just interesting because I think our kids kind of follow our heart and our love. My wife always says that. She goes, the only reason your son likes this is because you like it. Well, of course. Of course.
So.
Which is so funny because, like, it seems like that didn't happen quite. I feel like our generation just, like, wanted to blaze their own trail. Like, I don't remember my friends or me, like, being super into, like, the stuff that our parents were necessarily into. But it's interesting that, like, our generation of kids are, like, super into our stuff.
Well, it seems like I've thought about this a lot too. Like, we've talked about it. The thing about when I was a kid, and there was such a gap, it felt like, between my parents and me, like from the music they listened to. I think music was probably the smallest gap, where like I was into 70s and 60s music, so that gap wasn't huge. But I don't know if it's because of the advancement in technology from when our generation to our parents, but it just felt like that gap was so huge, and I didn't really want to associate with anything that had to do with my parents at all. And our kids, and it seems to be a lot of other kids, that gap just seems to be so much smaller, where like I never played with any toys or was into anything that my dad did when he was a kid. But like you said, when our kids were small, they were playing with all the stuff I liked, Hot Wheels and Star Wars and Ninja Turtles, and that was the stuff they got into.
I think part of that too is that maybe, like for me, my parents didn't buy me a lot of toys, but they didn't have money,
Yeah.
So all of that, the Turtles, the Star Wars, GI Joes, He-Man, the stuff that I wanted, I couldn't get. So now that my kids are at the age, I'm thinking, hey,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
that's what a lot of parents are doing, getting their kids into these toys and saying, look, this is what I could have had when I was a kid. Now
Yeah.
they're getting their kids, and that's why their kids are loving it.
Well, and plus there's like a little bit of like a void, I think, for their generation of stuff. Like there isn't, like it was just such an iconic time
Yes.
for like TV and music and
Yes.
toys. And like I think about what the choices are for our kids right now, or even, like our teenagers when they were, like our kids were watching like, I don't want a roly-poly-oly toy, or, like
Yeah.
it was such an iconic time.
Yeah, it was. It was.
That they've really just all stood the test of time. Like we were over at a time that our friend Larry owns, and he has like he'll routinely have like strawberry shortcake stuff
Okay.
in there, and that was like my jam. And every time I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're still awesome.
Yeah.
Like it's all just like totally like stood the test of time.
Yeah, it was such a
Interesting.
explosion of like pop culture. I feel like when you look back at previous generations, like there was this window of the 80s. Like something came up in my news feed recently. It was like a 5-minute video with some 80s song, and it was just like a montage of like movie clips, Ghostbusters, toys, TV show, like Perfect Strangers, TV, like just all this 80s, like from
Perfect
music
Strangers, that's
to movies to
special.
toys. And I sat and watched the whole thing for 5 minutes, and it was like
Yeah.
bringing back memories and emotions, feelings of, it's like we were so bombarded with pop culture and toys, and MTV was brand new, and music. It's like, I think that has something to do with it, where it was just, it invaded us as
Yeah.
small kids. I think Saturday morning cartoons, where all the commercials were Star Wars and GI Joe and all the toys.
Teddy
and
Ruxpin.
they were on our cereal box, like
I just got one of those.
everywhere.
You did?
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, like, what are the things that you cannot keep in stock? Like, they just come and go faster than you can buy them.
I get that question a lot. What's the best? What's the
Yeah.
But that's why we do so much of a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Because there's so much stuff out there, and we don't want to leave nobody behind.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, of course, Star Wars, GI Joes, He-Man,
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles, those fly off the shelf whenever we get them in. But
I think so many people have, like, touch point connection with those.
yeah, those are probably the greatest. And then, of course, we do a lot of wrestling.
Yeah.
So that's another big thing that rolls out of our store real fast.
Yeah.
So, but even like we were just talking about, like today's stuff is nothing compared to the
No.
yesterday's. Like
Yeah.
the wrestling, I mean, when I grew up with the 80s and 90s wrestlers, it was so amazing, and like today's stuff is just boring, and
Yeah.
I don't even watch wrestling no more.
Yeah.
Because it does nothing for me.
Yeah.
Compared to when we had Hulk Hogan and all of the classics, but that's that same era that we're talking about, I mean,
It
today's
is.
toys don't compare nothing to yesterday's toys,
I know. As I think about, like, the things that, like, our kids are, like, almost adults, age kids are, like, fighting over, like, from their childhood of who gets to keep what. It's those things. It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that they're fighting over. It's the Hot Wheels. It's, I can't even tell you anything from their actual childhood
Right.
in terms of a toy that they're, like, holding on to.
Yeah, I don't think in 20 years kids are going to be looking for Fortnite figures.
No.
Oh gosh.
It's,
Do your
no, I
boys
don't
play
think so.
Fortnite?
They do. What's the other one they play? They play maybe
Minecraft, maybe.
No, maybe it's Fortnite.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really pay attention to. I get too frustrated with the games. I'm not a video game
Yeah,
guy.
I'm not either.
They're hard.
Yeah,
So-
Fortnite is frustrating. Well, and our kids like go in and out of. I think that Fortnite kind of goes in bursts. Do you ever play Fortnite, Antonio? You used to. Yeah. I think it kind of comes and goes.
The Nintendo was easy with two little buttons.
Yeah, I
Wow.
stopped at Mario Brothers, Super
Yeah.
Mario Brothers. Really didn't go. I was obsessed when the Nintendo came out.
Yes.
I was super late in the game. Like all my friends had one, and finally I got one. And it was like Super Mario Brothers, Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I was obsessed with until I beat him, and then was Super Nintendo the next one, or
Super was the
64?
next one.
Yeah,
Yep.
I got into music and girls, so I was past
You
the
moved on.
yeah. But the first Nintendo, I was obsessed.
Yeah.
Which those are, we got one of those mini like
Yes,
Nintendos
those
that
are
they put
nice.
out.
Those are
Yeah.
cool.
Well, NES. Is
Yeah,
that
I have
something
some
like that?
games too. Like I have all these things. Like my collection is weird. Like Star Wars is probably that was my toy when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
That's probably what I'm most obsessed with. But there's and they're reissuing so much stuff too.
Yes.
Like I don't really collect based on value or for me any type of nostalgia. So my collection's kind of weird to have.
You'll only
But-
really buy something if you have like a personal, emotional connection
Mm-hmm.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's one of the things I love about your store. It's great for someone like me because my collection, and I'll go deep in some stuff, but I try not to go too deep in anything because
Right.
I have a tendency to get out of control.
You might
and-
be a
Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
That's what I did with the pops.
I was
the
just gonna
Funko
say,
Pops. Oh my
you
gosh.
kind of started to do that with the pops.
I
Okay,
re-
can we talk about like merchandising the pops?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been in those? I mean, if you were into pops, I'm sure I'm gonna start this conversation. You know exactly what I'm gonna say.
Man, you have a bunch in your store
Yeah,
too.
we do.
You like go into what was that store we used to FYE or
FYI
something?
or FYE, yeah.
And it's like a gigantic wall of pops
Yes.
with zero organization, and they're like 10 deep. And we would have like a kid that wanted like one like super obscure pop, and we're like, oh my gosh, I would leave with a migraine every single time we were shopping for pops. It's like my least
They're crazy. And when
least favorite thing.
at first when they came out, I refused to get them just because I knew there was so many, and it would
Right.
just be an endless.
Well, and you were
endless
kind
thing.
of collecting the vinyl idols. Is that what they were
Yeah,
called?
they only made a few of them. It was made by Funko.
You're right. And they
but
didn't last.
They didn't last,
No,
but those
they're
are
so
my
cool,
favorite.
yeah,
Though
those were,
they're a little too big, but those are my favorite. But the pops, I refused for a long time because I'm
Yeah.
like, if I start buying these, it's gonna get out of control.
that's what I did. Me and my son started with the wrestling ones.
I was just
Ah,
gonna say,
yeah.
yeah.
And then I was like, well, these are cool.
Yeah.
Everything they bring out is pretty, it's
They are.
pretty nostalgic and pretty
Right.
cool. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
even
They did a great job
what
making
is that?
them.
What was that girl's the girl show? Oh my gosh, I can't even think of it. But anyways,
Like a cartoon.
no, it was an old show that was on TV. It had three ladies.
Oh, the Golden Girls.
Golden Girls.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
those. I mean,
Right.
I mean, they're so nostalgic.
I would buy
Yeah.
a Blanche Pop.
I remember when I was a kid, that show was on TV, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
you
I just
bet.
got, let's have those too. So
Yeah.
I was
That was
buying
such
everything.
a great era for TV.
Yeah,
Too. The
yeah.
Golden Girls and Silver Spoons. and-
Family ties.
And I
Yeah.
think that's why people want them. Is just because they're so it's part of that nostalgic era, and
Yep.
Totally.
people just grab them. I mean, the Jeffersons. You see
Yeah.
that one. That was they look cool.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
just your people that you were crazy about on TV and your idols, and
Yeah.
so let's grab them. And then you got all the music ones. It's nonstop with Funko. They put everything out.
Everything. Yeah.
Kudos
Every
to
cartoon,
Pops.
everything, yeah. So
Yeah.
and they're awesome little cool gifts
Yeah.
that somebody can pick up real quick, and they're not going to break you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most of them.
Yeah.
There's some out there that are pretty pricey.
Yeah.
So,
The,
know, the
super
Elvis ones,
obscure ones.
that's
Oh,
where
I've
I
never
started.
even seen an
oh
Elvis one.
gosh, those are I think up to $700, $800
Oh my
now.
gosh.
Are they really?
Yeah, and Funko just re-released some new Elvis ones. They made some new ones, so
So
first
when they
ones that came out-
re-release them, do they release them at the regular
I
price?
guess sorry, I shouldn't say re-release.
Or they
put out a
release
new
new ones,
They put
yeah.
out a new one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do
and,
they release them at the regular price
yeah.
as the other Pops?
Yep. Yep. And then depending on how many people buy them or what's left, they become
Yeah.
pricey.
Like major collector's
Right.
items.
And I assume those like all things in that area, it's based on condition and in the
Right.
package. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Are most of them, which for me, like I have to open everything. Like
Uh-huh.
I don't
You're
have
super
I don't have
tactile.
anything that's worth. For me, I don't even care about how much it's worth. I just get what I like. But
Right.
but I'll take some stuff and think I probably shouldn't open this, but I have to open it. So I open just about everything.
I
But are
know,
the pops the ones that are worth? Like
In
is
the
the
box.
difference
In
in
the box.
value
The
like
mint- the
huge,
mint,
like
yep,
most things?
If it's mint in the box, that's where the
Yeah,
money's at.
where it's like $5 out of the box and $700
exactly,
in the box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. That's with anything. I mean, you can get a Star Wars figure that's $500 figure, and then you open it out of the package, and it's worth
It's
20,
instantly-
25.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
like I have all my Garbage Pail Kids from when I was a kid. And I have an Atom Bomb from the first series.
oh nice.
But it's in terrible condition, so I think it's worth like $40.
Right.
But at different times, if it was like a 9 or a 10, it was worth. At one point, they were going like $800, $900.
Yeah, there were some money.
But just a slight variance in the condition, and it's crazy. The
That's
value.
right.
Yeah.
And that's same with Funko. You get a little crease or anything, and they're very picky. I get people that come in the store and they like with a magnifying glass over that box.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, they're very picky.
Wow. Would you say that's one of, if not the most collected toy right now, is the Pops?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would have to say that's probably one of the biggest. I mean, every day I sell so many Pops.
Really?
That's one of the biggest sellers.
Wow.
Yeah.
How does that work for you, like buying them and reselling them? Or are you buying directly from Funko?
I
or?
buy directly from Funko, and I also buy collections. I get people that bring,
okay.
they want to get out of the game, and
Yeah.
They're like,
No,
this is too stressful.
exactly. Yeah, it is. It becomes almost like a job. Collecting is
Yeah.
a job for some people.
For reals.
So it can get out of hand.
Yeah, I have so many memories. Well, because like Barnes and Noble, I haven't been in a Barnes and Noble obviously in months, but they used to have like big like bins almost.
Right.
And one of our boys was like looking for a specific pop for a girl for her birthday. And I remember like both of us, like, hands deep in this
Going
like
through the
bin
bin.
of pops, just like going through trying to find. So silly.
And every business has jumped in on the bandwagon for Pops, because if you go to Barnes & Noble or Target or Walmart or
Yeah.
wherever, they all got exclusives with the little sticker that says
right.
Walmart or
Oh,
Target or
right.
Barnes & Noble.
Right.
Everybody's. So it's been a good business for everybody, I think. So
Pretty soon you're going to walk into a Shell station. It's like Shell exclusive Pop.
well, 7-Eleven has them.
Do
They
they?
do.
Yeah, 7-Eleven has
You
them.
were trying to be funny, and it like really happened.
Uh,
Yeah.
7-Eleven pops.
Yeah.
that's where I used to buy all my Garbage Pail Kids when I was a kid. There was a,
It was 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven?
yeah,
I don't remember that.
The
There was
Sev, as my brothers would say.
like I was in 5th grade and there was a 7-Eleven within walking distance from our house.
Wow.
And they would have like a little box on the counter.
It was a very hip 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was probably around the 4th series, so it'd been out for a little while.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hadn't even heard about them, I think, until the 3rd series had just started.
And they've kind of made a comeback too.
Mhm.
Not just the older ones, but even new ones. I know they've been putting out a lot of different,
Have they?
like WWF or
Mhm.
WWE, excuse me. They put out some new wrestling ones, and
Yeah.
a lot of new stuff for the Garbage Pail line that
Yeah.
they've been putting out.
Yeah, they're putting out whole new series.
Right.
And
Right.
I think constantly now. Like they did I think in 2016 they did an election series. So it was all the
Yes.
candidates.
Yes.
And,
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
How
Mhm.
funny.
Yeah. The same with the Pops. They did that also.
Oh, that's right.
Well,
So-
and they started like in response to Cabbage Patch Dolls. Yeah? Like,
I'm not sure
Garbage
exactly
Pail
how.
Kids?
yeah. No?
Yeah.
Yeah? Because they totally look like
Yeah.
parodies of
Yeah.
Cabbage Patch
It
Dolls.
was basically a parody of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which there was, I don't know all the details, but I know there was like a lawsuit at the beginning. And
Was
Really?
there?
yeah.
That's so funny. Cabbage Patch Dolls were like my life. Like, if you're going to talk, do you get those? At all?
Every once in a while, somebody will try to bring one in, and they
They're
don't,
so
they don't hold value.
grungy.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
hold value even
Yeah.
in the box.
Yeah.
I
Really?
mean, there's I'm sure a couple of them that probably hold something, but
Yeah, it's funny.
Mo-
In all
majority
of
no.
our like roaming, because obviously there's a lot of time invested
right?
in this collection. But I don't think I've ever seen a Cabbage Patch doll.
No,
I was like obsessed.
but the same with Beanie Babies.
Oh yeah.
yeah, those
You know,
went nuts.
They,
and
they
then,
they went crazy just like Pops, and then
Yeah.
now they're worth nothing.
And do you think that it has something to do with like the soft?
I think it's because it's a plush,
Yeah,
and
'cause it just gets
like
gross.
more like a doll that
Yeah.
people it didn't hold, But I don't think Funko's ever gonna go anywhere. I think
Yeah.
they're gonna. It's more because they're more of a figure
Yeah.
and a collectible compared to just a plush that you would throw
Yeah.
around.
well, and they're tapping into so much nostalgia.
Right.
And from people have, whether it doesn't matter if you're into music, movies, TV, whatever your thing is, there's going to be a whole
Right.
ton of Pops for you. Where Beanie Babies they weren't connected to. I didn't collect them, but I don't think they had like bands that were Beanie Babies
Right.
or
Right.
movie stars or
No, they were
athletes.
just like they were random, right?
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah,
and the Cabbage
just-
Patch Dolls the same. That they were just
I think that's one of the keys with Pops is that they're tapping into addictions that already exist
Right,
and
exactly.
obsessions that people
yeah,
have.
and the marketing on Pops is just like brilliant. Like, hats off to
Right.
Funko. Like they hit it on all fronts.
How does it work with like excuse me, with Funko, with you being able to order? Do you get a heads up of what's being released and you pick and choose what you want?
That's
and-
correct.
Yeah.
They'll give me a couple months ahead of time sometimes and tell me, hey, this is coming out.
Yeah.
And I mean, they usually release that for anybody, anyways. But
Right.
you know, when we get ready to order, we kind of know what's coming out in a couple months, and then they'll send us a deadline. You know, say, hey, this is open till
Yeah.
now.
Do they put limits on
No,
like purchasing
I
certain
pretty
things?
much can order as many as I want,
Yeah,
unless like
cool.
they have the new pop soda cans. Have you seen those?
No.
And they're limited edition to like maybe 5,000. So
Yeah.
that's, you know, once the 5,000.
It's an actual soda?
Yeah. No, it's in a it looks like a soda can.
Yeah.
But when you open the top, there's a little vinyl figure inside.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
those I don't think have taken off as quick as, you know, a regular pop.
Yeah.
I got customers that want them, that collect them, but they're not as high priority.
Yeah.
But they're a very limited edition compared to,
Yeah.
you know, the
Do you
regular
have some in your
pops.
store?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And they also each collection comes with a chase. So there will be a regular vinyl inside the soda can, and there'll be another one that's a chase, like the Chucky one that just came out. It'll look
Okay.
like a regular Chucky, or the chase will be all bloody.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
they're cool. They're cool, and
Yeah.
there's people that want them, but I don't think they're as
So do you know what's
popular.
in it?
nope, not until you
So
open
it's
it.
kind of like,
yeah.
is it called those LOL dolls that the kids like open and it's like, that's like so popular.
That was popular.
It makes me want to punch everybody in the face. Like our kids were like kind of older before that trend hit, but they were, for a while, our kids were super into, I think Minecraft had some of them that was like in a little box and it was like a mystery.
Huh, I didn't
thing.
see those.
It made me mad.
My kids got
Every time.
into the miniatures. They look like little miniature food or a miniature.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
think
Yeah.
of what the name of those, but they were really big into those for a while. And
Yeah.
then those kind of nothing's
Kinda fizzled.
nothing. Yeah, everything kind of fizzles today. Nothing stays
Yeah,
for very
it doesn't.
long. Yeah.
It's like it doesn't have enough tooth.
Compared, I mean, the only thing that I really see staying around a whole lot, you know, for the majority of the time that we've, 10 years, 15 years, Pop's been around.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how long they've been around, but that's the longest anything's really stayed around lately.
I can see like the process of ordering pops for a store being like a little bit like gambling. That
Yeah.
you're kind of like, I think this is going to be popular.
Exactly,
Like,
and that's
think
what I
kids are
do. I'm
gonna-
very, very picky on what I order because
Yeah.
you know, you order a box of 12 or 15, and then you're stuck with.
And can you
know.
order like specifics? Like you're like, I want 25 Harrys of Harry Potter. Or I
Well,
only
they
want,
come in a box of 6, so you have to order
Okay,
6
buy
to start.
6, yeah.
So you order in 6s.
but it's that specific character.
Right,
You're not
yeah,
having to
no, you
like, I'm
can't
just
mix and
ordering
match.
this set of Harry Potter.
Right. So,
Interesting. Yeah, that could make you crazy.
yeah, it's because you don't want to order too much and then be stuck with product that just ain't moving. You
Yeah.
know? So
Or not enough of
right.
whatever is going to be.
Well, like the Easy E Pop just came out.
Oh,
and,
that's cool.
And in 2 days I sold out, and I'm like, darn, I should have bought a couple more boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I'm happy just to be rid of, you know,
Right.
made
You're
it,
ready.
you
You're
know,
happy to move it through.
right, move it through and
Yeah.
be done, not have no extras, you know.
Versus
Yeah.
stuck with it. Yeah.
Right.
So for you personally, your collection is mostly wrestling. Is that your?
That's what. Yeah. Well, it's more my son's,
Okay.
but I don't want to say I'm a toy collector. but
This is a safe space
Yeah.
for toy collectors.
but yeah, it's kind of weird. Everybody asks me what do I collect, you know, but
Yeah.
I was never. That's what makes it weird too. I was never a toy collector. I didn't have toys when I was a kid.
You're like the drug dealer that doesn't like use his own supply,
Yeah. So what?
That's a good thing,
My
though.
toy store is my collection now.
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah.
which I think makes the whole process like more.
And there's some stuff that I'll put in the
Well-rounded.
store that I put the price up pretty high because I don't care if it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants it bad enough, then they can have it. But
Yeah.
if not, then it's my
You'll
collection.
enjoy it.
Yeah. Right. So
No, that's a good
That's
thing
cool.
because if that was my business, that would be hard for me to sell. Probably most of the stuff.
Yes.
yeah, there's some stuff that's like, man, I hate to see it go, but
Yeah.
then on the other hand, I'm glad to see it go to somebody that really
gonna
loves it
love
and
it.
cares
Yeah.
about it.
And your guys' wrestling collection, what's some of your favorite stuff they have?
For the pops.
Just your wrestling
Oh,
memorabilia.
just the well, we
In
have
general.
Because you have like belts.
yeah,
and,
we
like,
have probably one of my favorites, the Ultimate Warrior sign belt that I have.
Oh wow.
Probably one of the greatest superstars ever.
Yeah.
I have a Stone Cold sign belt that it's one of my favorites, and I got a bunch of Hulk Hogan sign stuff. He's probably the greatest ever to me. So,
Yeah.
that's what one of the pieces that I hate to get rid of. Anything Hogan,
Yeah.
but if I put it high enough and somebody wants it, then I guess they can have it.
Yeah.
Like, just love it.
Yeah, and then it walks out sometimes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody bought that. But
That era of wrestling with Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan,
Yes.
Roddy Piper, Junkyard Dog, that was just
the greatest.
that was the greatest. Yeah.
Yes.
As a kid, I remember lived on a cul-de-sac, and there was probably 6 of us guys all around like the same grade.
Uh-huh.
There was just tons of kids. It was like something out of an 80s movie, and we
Yeah.
would there were certain things we would get together and watch, and that was one of them. It was just so iconic. Like you said, Ultimate Warrior was just like larger than life.
He was.
So many of those characters.
And that's the thing with today's wrestling. There's nobody, to me, that's larger than life.
Right.
Compared to back in the 80s and the 90s, they were all larger than life and amazing people, and today, not that I'm not trying to take away from the wrestling guys of today, but they just, it's a whole different world, and they just, it's a whole different world.
Different dynamic.
Yeah,
Well, it's like inevitable with all great things that happen, like the business side of it typically, at least on some level, will change it or ruin it.
Well, what were we watching? Was it that David Arquette documentary?
Oh yeah,
that
did
we
you
were
see
watching?
that?
Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that. I know David though.
It's like when it's
You know him
like
personally?
telling the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, he's such a unique guy.
He's
Yes,
so
he is.
unique.
Yes, he is.
How do you
Yeah.
know him?
The Nasty Boys, wrestlers from the WWF
Uh-huh.
era. They're good friends of mine, and I work with them every once in a while, and they actually introduced me to David. They're good friends with David,
Okay.
and so because of that, me and David became friends,
That's cool.
and so he's, loves the wrestling business.
He's
amazing, amazing fan of the business, and so great guy.
Yeah, you have to watch that documentary. I think it just came
Yeah,
out a
it's
few months ago.
interesting.
Oh, all
It's
right.
so
Super
interesting
interesting.
because a handful of years ago he like won a championship.
Well, it
right?
was like a
Yes.
publicity stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
yeah.
You have the inside track. That's from watching the documentary. That was kind of how it was.
So the documentary was like, because he took a lot of flack for that,
Mm-hmm.
and so the documentary was him like wanting, because he's like, I love it so much. It was like his first love turning his back on him. Is
Right.
kind of the way he felt, and so the documentary was like him getting in shape and wrestling and to
Right.
kind of, it's really good. Is a
okay,
Yeah.
I'll have
It
to
was-
check it out.
It was
Yeah.
interesting.
he's such a interesting character and neat guy.
I'll have to
Is he
check
as
it out.
quirky?
In
in real life as he-
I don't know.
Yeah, what his
How do I say?
persona
I've
is.
never just hung out with him. We was in a business situation where we was at like a Comic-Con and stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
So but a very, very nice guy, very respectful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it seems like a
loves the
genuine guy.
business. So no, but we didn't hang out as best friends or nothing. So,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but he's very, very, always very friendly
Yeah.
and respectful to me and to my wife, and
Yeah.
so, and I just know he loves the business, and that's why I've always respected him. Anybody
Yeah,
that
kind of followed him.
that loves the business like I do.
Yeah.
So,
So how did you get into this side you are now, where you're having wrestlers come in the store and doing appearances and
well,
going to Comic Cons? How did that happen?
my best friend since second, third grade, his dad was a wrestler,
Oh, okay.
and he we had lost contact, as we got older, and then probably a year after I opened my store, we had got back into contact, and we would start going to meet and greets at other places, and we started talking about we could do this at our store, and I said, yeah, let's get into it, let's figure it out, let's see what we got to do to bring somebody in, and our very first wrestler that we ever brought in was Tugboat. I don't know if you remember him. And he came into our store and for a meet and greet, and from there he hooked us up with different talents, and it just took off from there. And we try to make it a little different than any other meet and greet in Southern California, where when you go up to meet the wrestler, you put your item on the table and they sign it and they tell you to see you later.
Yeah.
And I hate that, because I don't care if you're spending $20 for an autograph or $100 for an autograph. To me, a lot of this is once in a lifetime that you're going to get to meet your hero.
Yeah.
And to just go up there and say hi and goodbye, to me, I wasn't really happy with that. And so we always wanted to do something bigger and better for the fans, where they were more appreciated by the talent. And so we said, when they walk up there, hey, ask a few questions, talk to them a little bit, say
engage.
something, engage, and get a little more out of your $20, and
Yeah.
and so that's what we've done from day one. And we've had people like Kane, Gold Dust, some of the biggest names in the business, and who are regularly put your item up on the table and move, and we said as a promoter we wasn't going to do that, and we've got these big names to actually take time and engage with the fans, and
That's really
and
cool.
It's been amazing. So we've been very lucky, and so
It's probably more
ran with it.
fulfilling for them at the end of the day, too.
I think for both of them,
Yeah.
I think it is. But I mean, you get some fans up there that just don't stop, and they just want to ask
Right.
a million goofy
Right.
questions, So I understand that too.
becomes
So,
like a political
yeah.
debate.
So there's got to be a line, and we draw that. And
Yeah.
but we want everybody to walk away with a special time with their hero.
Yeah.
And so and like I said, these have been my heroes, and so it's kind of neat that I get to live and to interact with these guys. 'Cause
Well, and
they're
be
amazing
facilitating it for other
people. Right.
fans, too.
right.
It was really cool.
So I've been lucky. I've been very blessed, and I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Yeah. So how often are you doing those in stores?
Well, before COVID, we was doing them every 3 months.
Yeah.
About every 3 months, and so we just had our first one a month and a half ago, and we started off with a big name and was just taking a chance to see how it would go, and we had an amazing event, and so we just we got another one this Saturday, October 10th, and we got 3 people coming in. I usually don't do 3 people, but we just kind of shot big, and the response has been amazing. So it's going to be a big event.
So exciting.
I'm sure it's one of those things too that obviously you're a fan and you're into it, that once you got into that community, probably just one door opens the next door.
Exactly.
One
It's
relationship.
all how you treat people. The
Yeah.
word gets around that, hey, this is a good promoter, this is a bad promoter, and don't work with him, or work with him, and then they pass your name around, and they let you know, hey, this guy's good to work with, this guy's not.
Yeah.
So right before COVID hit, we had a Toy Con in Vegas. Do you remember that Toy Con?
I remember hearing about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's a pretty big one. So
Yeah.
we went over there, and we actually took a tugboat with us, Fred Ottman, and he's a big toy guy, so we
Yeah.
brought him with us, and we've worked with him probably 4 or 5 times now, and just a great, loving guy, and easy to work with, so we're close to him, so we brought him, And we get there, and there's supposed to be some bigger names there, like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and Rey Mysterio and somebody else. But a lot, and then they had like the Transformer guys that were supposed to be there. The ET names were supposed to be there, and a lot of people canceled. So we knew this was going to get bad. We knew that the wrestlers weren't going to be able to, be working, because if they're not doing conventions
Right.
and doing signings, they're not making no money.
Right.
So I called 4 or 5 different wrestlers that were in the Vegas area, and I brought them in for the Comic-Con, and they got to work and put some money in their pocket at the very
That's
beginning
great.
of this, and so now a lot of them has been sitting at home and
Yeah.
and just they've been hurting.
Yeah.
A lot of people has went to, I'm sure you guys have seen, to the virtual
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Comic-Cons and stuff like that, the virtual signings.
Yeah.
So that's helped a lot of them out. But as for me and my store, we've just kind of stayed away from those. I'm more of a in-person person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
And,
the same.
Yeah, it's not. It's
Yeah.
not. And I don't want to pay. For me personally, I'm not going to pay for an autograph for somebody I'm not going to meet or I'm not going to see, or
Right.
I want to see them in person myself. And
Yeah.
so that's why we've stayed away from that. We'd rather have them in person, and so now we're getting back on track with them in store.
That's
And,
so great.
Hopefully, after this year is beginning January, we can maybe things will get a little better with
Yeah.
opening up for every business. And
Yeah. We're hoping.
Fingers crossed.
because it's been hard for a lot of businesses, very
Yeah.
hard.
With you guys, with the stock that you have in the store, you're obviously you're doing a little bit of storage unit buying, and you're buying people's collections. I mean, you guys seem to get a lot of. I mean, I see you on Facebook, and you guys do a really good job at marketing and put yourself out there. So you probably have people contacting you at least somewhat often. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would buy stuff.
I hear from people probably either every other day or
Do you
every
really?
day, yeah.
Wow.
There's always somebody that wants to sell something. But,
And what, like, for someone that wants to, what does that process look like? You obviously ask them what they have, and then they bring it in the store.
Yeah, I like them to bring it into the store so that I can,
Yeah.
go over the items and the condition of the items and a lot of people, message me or email me and say, hey, I have this. And it's in excellent shape, but when they bring it in, it looks like the dog chewed it up.
You're like,
Yeah.
my
So
perception of excellent is different from yours.
And the buyers are very picky, so I have to be picky too what I
Right.
buy for the buyers. And so I like them to bring it in the store. A lot of there's times that I can meet at somebody's house, also, or wherever they would like to meet. We do that also. So whatever's convenient for the seller.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just bring it into the store and we'll go over a price together and something that's worth our time and your time. And,
Yeah.
try
And I'm
to
sure
do
you
the
have
best.
different types of collectors where you have the guys that only want it if it's like in the package.
Right,
And
right.
for me, like, Star Wars is the one thing that I have a goal to eventually. I want to get every action figure, the
Wow.
vintage stuff eventually.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't care if it's in package or
Yeah.
as long as they have all their limbs and they
Right.
they look halfway decent.
Your new
It's-
Princess Leia is awesome.
Yeah, I got that at your store.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Actually, there's
Appreciate
probably at least 6 or 7 up there. I got.
I was
Wow.
gonna say you had
Nice.
a big week at his store last
Mhm.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, we go in waves though. Sometimes we'll get a ton of Star Wars in, and then sometimes we don't see them at all. And I got some not too long. I don't know if you've seen sitting behind me on the shelves. I had some higher priced Star Wars, but they're not vintage.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of those came in, and I couldn't believe, the price for them, and they're not vintage, but
Right.
I mean they're still older. They're still 10 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the price is just amazing on Star Wars sometimes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But-
But that's one thing I love about your store is that for someone like me that my collection's kind of hit and miss, there's so many different, like that Bob's Big Boy bank I got at your store too. Like,
Did you?
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was when you first walk into the right, there's those glass
Right,
cases.
right.
It was in one of there.
Oh,
I got that
Okay, yeah, I remember
there
that.
probably a couple weeks ago.
Growing up in the, our kids all basically grew up in the Carolinas.
Uh-huh.
'Cause you were there for 20 years. They had no frame of reference for what that was.
Yeah.
They were just like, what is that weird big boy
Yeah.
thing that you guys have? And we're like, it's a restaurant in California.
Yeah. That's
So now that we're home,
that was
I
one of my
think
favorites.
we drove
Yeah,
past
mine
one
too.
and they were like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's that thing that Dad has.
I used to take my youngest son. He always wanted to go to Big Bob's. That's what he called
Big
it.
Bob's.
Big
Yeah.
Bob's. We'd go once a week for breakfast, me and him, when he
I love
was
that.
just a little bitty guy. And yeah, it's sad they're closing again. They
I
came back
know.
for quite a while, and then
Yeah, I've really only seen one.
I think
Norco.
Calamesa's the
There's
last.
one in Norco.
Is there one?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Calamasa has one too.
Do
left.
they?
Yeah, but
Which we need to go to the one in Norco before
I
it
know,
closes.
we do. We need
Because
to
I
take
haven't
the
been to one
kids.
in over probably 20 years.
I'd like to get the big statue. That'd be pretty cool.
Yes.
To have in
I
your
want one
store.
so
That'd
bad.
be awesome.
Yeah,
They're
that's
so cool.
That's another thing on our bucket list to
get
be able
the
to have
statue.
one of
They
those.
can't.
Yeah.
They can't be that pricey.
I know. I mean, and there must be a lot of them
Oh, yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah,
like, where are
somebody's
they?
got 'em.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody has.
Somebody's
When they used to get stolen, all like
Really? I
like-
never heard about that.
like people would like college students would
That's an
Do like a
aggressive
prank
prank.
yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of logistics.
Yeah, that can't be
That
light
prank.
either.
No.
No.
That'd be heavy.
No.
no, you need a lot of people.
Yeah, that's an aggressive.
Yeah.
It's a commitment right there.
Yeah.
I think I'll
So with
pass.
we talked earlier about buying storage units,
Mm-hmm.
which we were talking before when that show Storage Wars came out. Like I was obsessed with because
Right.
I'm a picker and like
I'm just really, really thankful that you didn't ever get into that because it makes me tired thinking about you doing that.
buying
You'd have a
storage
store.
units.
Yeah, if you started buying
Yeah.
storage units,
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
it's a lot of work.
a whole
Yeah.
lot of work. And you buy the unit, then you got to clean it out, then you got to process all the stuff. So
Yeah.
it's a whole lot of work. But,
Well, and for you coming from like a hauling, like cleaning out foreclosures background, like that was probably the perfect preparation for
Right.
having a process to
Right.
be able to go through and
Right.
deal with those.
And you got into it before that show came out.
Before the
For it,
show
it was
came out.
popular, so I'm sure it was a lot more lucrative
Right.
back then than it is now.
And even then, I never thought it was going to be on TV. So I wished I would have took more of an advantage.
Right.
And because I wasn't even a big buyer then.
Right.
I would just do it every once in a while, just on the side. I was doing my hauling company, so
Yeah.
I would do that just on the side, like I am now, just more for fun.
Yeah.
Not as so much as my business or income. I got a lot of buddies that's what they do for their income, and it's a rough business.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
because
gotta know.
you're relying on what you find.
And it's not always just. I mean, you can see certain stuff in there and think, oh, this is going to be a good unit, but just because you see one good thing don't mean it's going to be a good unit. So it's very, it's like playing the lottery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna
So-
say
Because you're not allowed to go in, right?
Nope,
You
can't
have
go
to.
in. You just buy it, as seen.
Sight unseen.
Yeah.
Well, you were telling me the other day about somebody that like found or bought a storage unit.
Oh yeah,
that-
one of the guys from that show. Did
Uh-huh.
you see that? He found a Kobe Bryant,
I didn't
unit.
see that.
and it was. It seems like it belonged to
somebody
one
had
of.
it first though.
It belonged to like one of his stylist type
Uh-huh.
manager people that worked for him. I think it was under his name,
Huh.
and it was just filled with, like a ton of his personal stuff,
Oh,
like
wow.
jerseys to
Shoes he had worn.
shoes he had worn, game worn
Wow.
jerseys, game worn shoes, like
Fur
Wow.
coats.
50, 60, 70 pairs of shoes, all in boxes,
Wow.
fur coats, outfits, receipts with his name, like just tons and
Like,
tons of stuff.
I didn't see that.
Jerseys with like his kids' names on them.
Wow.
Yes, kids' jerseys, like
Yeah.
just unbelievable amount of stuff.
Wow.
And someone had bought it for like $350,
Oh my god.
and then
Right.
called this guy because
Uh-huh.
he's famous, I guess, from that show, and he bought it off him for like 13,000.
Oh wow.
And then he put out a video, and I don't know the whole story, but I guess he contacted Vanessa, his wife, and all the personal stuff, like gave back
Oh nice.
to her a lot, the personal stuff, but stuff that wasn't personal or that he hadn't worn, I think he kept some of it, selling it. But
Yeah.
that was the one thing that I lost interest in that show, was you could tell so much of it was staged or
Yeah.
fake. Like
Yeah.
I have no interest in watching
Right.
a staged
Right. Right.
Well, and
locker unit.
it kind of went from like watching this like very authentic process unfold to like they became like caricatures of themselves
Right.
a
Right.
little bit.
Well,
Yeah.
it's all about ratings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're not bringing in ratings,
Yeah, the
show's
yup
not gonna
and
be
the
on TV.
truck and
Yeah.
the yeah.
Yeah.
it
Did you
became
come
like a
across
thing.
any cool stuff? Units?
I've never had nothing crazy. I found some gold.
Yeah.
That's about it. But nothing
Super
crazy.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I find stuff that keeps bringing me back. And
You're like, I'm still doing it,
Yeah.
so it can't
So,
be all
I mean,
bad.
I do okay on it.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, it's a lot of work. So
Yeah.
if you look at the time that you put into it and the money you're making, it's you got to enjoy it. You got to love what you're doing, or
Yeah.
otherwise it's not so much worth it either.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to
So-
say. If you look at, like, if you're ferreting out the hours that go
Right.
into, like, cleaning the rest of the unit out to sell the one item,
Right.
like, I'm sure there has to be, like, a profit loss
Yeah.
thing on it.
if
That
you're
you're right. You
looking
do
at
have
hours,
to,
yeah.
like, love it.
So,
Are you buying any of the like new vintage stuff that's coming out, where they're like Back to the Future, like have that like Teen Wolf, and
yeah.
where they're-
I don't,
are you getting in-
I
buying
don't
any of
really
that?
do too much of those. They're just you'll sell a couple of them and then it's
Yeah.
not a big market for them. I mean, they're cool,
yeah.
but no, they're I think that's Funko also, ain't it?
I think that one's Reaction.
Is that Reaction?
Yeah.
Okay. I know Funko is doing some too.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, they're cool, but they don't move as well. So,
Yeah.
Probably when you have, like, the more serious collectors coming in,
Right.
they
Well,
want
the
it to
bad
be
thing
authentic.
is you got competition with like Target. Target
Right.
that puts out a lot of those.
right, when you're reselling.
Right. So it's just so many more go to Target than come to a little mom and pop store and
Yeah.
grab that stuff easy. So
Yeah.
It's like
it's
a
hard.
different.
Right.
I think you're like a very, very unique breed of collector, that you're like completely nostalgia based, where I think that the majority of people who are as nostalgia based as you aren't as like committed to the hunt. And where you're probably getting more people who are just like collect. It's more about the collecting
Right.
than about the.
Yeah, the hunt is
Nostalgia.
a big part of it for me. Where there's stuff I could buy online,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd rather find it. I'd rather
Yes.
come with some
Yeah.
stuff like I'm not gonna come across this, so I'll break down and buy it online. But
Right.
for me, most of the fun is like walking in your store and being like, oh, there's that
Right.
one, and seeing it and being able to buy it versus just click.
Yeah.
It's a completely
Yeah.
different experience.
Yeah.
So
It
that,
sure is.
that's I think the picker inside of me and dumpster diver.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
the hunt for the treasures, it adds so much more to it.
Yeah. I agree. I do a lot of looking for wrestling stuff, so it's you don't find it a lot of times, and
Yeah.
even with the newer stuff that's out, it's even that's hard to find because so many people are buying it right now.
Yeah.
Me and my son went to Walmart 2 days ago, and we found a couple figures that we haven't been able to find at all. So that was kind of
It's such a score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So so you get lucky some days. But
Yeah, I've heard the original, like those bendable WWFs that came out.
Mhm.
The one that when I was a kid.
Right.
I've heard that the story that they were supposed to be much smaller, and
Mhm.
have you heard that? Because they were like what, like
Are
about
you
this
talking
big?
about the LJN ones, or are you talking about the actual bendable ones? They had
The-
some bendums.
I think it was one of, if not the first, with the WWF, like first Hulk Hogan.
Okay,
and
so the LJNs.
Yeah.
Those were the big rubber ones.
the big rubber ones.
Right,
yeah,
right.
I've heard that because they were like what? I don't know how many inches, but
they were pretty big.
They were pretty
Yeah.
big. I heard a story. I don't know if it's true that those were basically like the prototypes,
Uh-huh. No, I didn't
and they were
hear that.
they were when they were actually going to make them were going to be much smaller.
Huh.
But then they found that kids actually, because of the size,
Mhm.
actually played with them and made them wrestle, and so they
Huh.
decided. I don't know if it's true, but I think it was on that
It
show
makes logical sense.
the Toys
Yeah.
That Made Us. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've
on
watched
Netflix?
a little bit of it.
I think it was on that show maybe.
Oh, okay.
But it's fascinating to hear the story,
Mhm.
especially with those back then, because like the story of Star Wars, where they
Uh,
rushed those things out so fast because they had a movie coming out and
right.
they wanted to have the action figures, and they actually didn't meet the deadline, so kids were buying a piece of cardboard with that original set that came
Right,
out.
and then
So for
then
Christmas,
they'd
you get-
remail it.
Yeah, it would mail it
Right,
to you. So
Right.
kids woke up on Christmas morning with a cardboard box of pictures
Yeah,
of
that's
them,
crazy.
and then they would
Yeah.
come to you later. Yeah,
That's crazy.
And wasn't there something with like the lightsaber mechanism or something that they?
Oh, the Boba Fett. Have you heard that story
Huh.
with? Because Boba Fett, that when they released
that was
that,
the jetpack.
because if you collected like was it the UPC
Uh-huh.
or proof of purchase, like if you collected so many of them and you
You can get the
send them in,
mail-aways.
you get a mailer. So the original Boba Fett, I might be butchering this story, was one of those. They didn't release it. You could save up for it, but they were advertising it. They were doing commercials for it,
Mhm.
and the missile on its jetpack, it had like a little lever that would release, and
Right.
so the commercial, you see it like shooting this rocket out of his back, and it was like, at the time, it's like, that's amazing. And so they went through a few different iterations of it because it was a choking hazard and the way it shot out. So the one that actually finally came out, the missile was just glued into the back. It
Right.
didn't come out. So kids were like super
Disappointed.
bummed. It's
Yeah.
like, I've been watching this commercial. I've been saving up my proof of purchases, and I get it, and it doesn't come out. But
Yeah.
there's like legends
So
of,
sad.
there's supposedly a couple of those prototypes
Really?
That shipped.
that actually did that, that
Wow.
didn't ship, but that people
People
got their
have.
hands of, that
Yeah.
are just worth like ridiculous
That'd be
amounts of
some
money.
money right
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
But I love all that.
Yeah,
Those
you're
stories
super into
and-
the history of it.
Yeah, I love documentaries. So when that show came out, any documentary on toys or
Huh.
it's fascinating.
Yeah,
You're
the
here for
wrestler
it.
that we're gonna have this weekend, his in-ring name was Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona.
Uh-huh.
He's actually a huge collector, toy collector,
Okay.
That's
and
cool.
they do a wrestling podcast, and they
Oh,
talk
really?
about toys and stuff like that. But
I'll have to check that
yeah,
out.
he's a big toy guy,
Yeah.
especially wrestling toys. He's got one of the biggest collections. And,
That's awesome.
yeah, so he'll be in our store this weekend, and
Oh.
he loves toy stores, so hopefully he'll think something good of mine. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
That's
You're like,
awesome.
He goes
Fingers
to he goes
crossed.
to a lot of them, so I mean, there's some
Yeah.
pretty awesome toy stores out there. That
Is he from in California or?
no, he's from back east.
Okay.
So he'll fly out.
So you're picking them up
Yeah,
tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they'll be at the store Saturday?
They'll be at the store Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this will come out after,
That's
Wednesday.
fine.
but
That's fine.
we'll promote it on our Instagram and Facebook,
Okay.
social media. Let people know, because that's awesome. So have you met Hulk Hogan?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Very, very nice guy.
Is
Yeah,
he?
he
Very
seems
nice guy.
like it.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice guy. He was very, very polite to me, very polite to my sons.
Yeah.
So,
That
Yeah.
makes
nice
me
guy.
happy.
I never got to really just work with him one-on-one. But with the signing, I would like to someday.
Yeah.
But all these 80s wrestlers are getting older. And,
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, is he still like actively
he
promoting
is, but
and working?
with
and,
this COVID stuff, he's very
cautious.
he's very cautious, and he has a store in Florida. It's called Hogan's Beach Shop, so he kind of stays in
that's
there
right.
and
Yeah.
just does all his signings in there. I mean, there's
That's
really
cool.
no big reason
good
for him to have
idea.
to leave when
Yeah.
when he's right there.
Be flying across the country.
So yeah.
Did you see that documentary on Jake the Snake with
Yep.
was it Diamond Dallas?
Yep.
That's his name, right?
Diamond Dallas
Diamond Dallas
Page.
Page. Yeah, that was a good
Yeah.
documentary.
He's really Jake's really he really saved Jake's life.
Yeah.
And Jake's an amazing guy too. I've worked with him twice.
Yeah.
And very, very good guy. And it's the wrestling business is hard, and hard on their bodies, hard on their minds, and
Yeah.
I just can't imagine, especially back in the day, how rough it was for some of these guys.
Yeah.
We just had Sid Vicious. I don't know if you remember him,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people want to complain because he's canceled on them, or they don't trust him because he's canceled or whatever.
Yeah.
So we had him, and he showed up, and an amazing guy.
Huh.
And then the next two signings after ours at different stores, he did back out. I don't know the full details. I did call Sid and to check on him to see if he was okay after
Yeah.
I found out he had canceled. And all I can say is that I don't think a lot of people understand what some of these guys have put their bodies through
Yeah.
and their minds through. And so, everybody thinks that Sid just wanted to cancel, but I know he was in great pain. His body was in great pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so these guys put their bodies on the line every day, or every day they're wrestling, every other day, and traveling like crazy for the fans,
Yeah.
And then the fans kind of, even the promoters get mad and say, oh, well, he did this, he did that, he canceled, and want to run these guys in the ground. But when you actually get to know these guys and see what they put their bodies through and the pain that they're going through, and it's not that they're just canceling because they want to, because this is their livelihood. They're still making money
Right.
on
Yeah.
these signings, so they don't want to cancel. They don't have to,
No.
But poor Sid, he was in a whole lot of pain, and that's why he had canceled this last couple events. And we don't see that, just regular
Right.
people don't see that, what they're going through and what their bodies are going through, and sometimes it's hard for them to get out of bed. Sometimes it's hard for them to function just because
Yeah.
their bodies have been through so much.
Yeah.
And so I forget where I was going with all that, but
Life is just better, I think, when we all just assume that we're all doing the best we can.
right,
Like if you have
Yeah.
somebody cancel, just assume
right,
that they're doing the best
right,
that they can.
right.
It's just a
So,
better.
And we've been lucky. We've only had one cancellation, and that was because of the fires that we had
Yeah.
last year too.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason that we had a cancellation. We've
That's
been
great.
very lucky, and been very fortunate that we haven't had none. So, but
Yeah. For me, watching, it was that David Arquette documentary, and then the Jake the Snake with Diamond Dallas Page. That one was really good, but it was so eye opening for me to see what they actually put their bodies
Yeah.
through,
yeah,
and not just the results of that during their career, but that are permanent,
Right.
like pain and
Right.
that they have to deal with. I mean,
right.
even someone that works a construction job their whole life,
Mhm.
it's like you get into your 40s, 50s, 60s, and your back and your legs
Yeah.
and your knees, but for them, they're literally throwing their bodies
Yes.
off of buildings.
Yes.
And like the David Arquette one, it does a good job at showing like the physical pain that they go through and with the blood, and it's
Right.
like,
I mean, I love the wrestling business. And it's been good to me and to my family. But I would never, I wouldn't want to get in the ring and wrestle. It's
Yeah.
not
No.
for me.
Well, and
It's-
how old is Hulk Hogan? Hulk Hogan.
He's 70 something.
I was going to
believe.
say they've got to be
I
like
would have to look it up. but
in their, well,
I don't-
because as I
maybe-
think about them as a kid, like he was a grown man.
Yeah.
You know, like he
Yeah.
was a man
Yeah.
when we were kids. So he's
Yeah.
got to be.
Yeah, maybe
Up
60
there.
something. I'm not sure. I don't want to make him sound too old.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a nasty
But
gram
even
from Hulk
even
Hogan.
even him,
He's
man,
like,
I mean,
I'm
his
57.
body's been through hell, you know, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you can see when he walks, you know, it's just it's rough, you know.
Yeah.
And, all these guys, you know, they put their bodies through hell just for us, the fans, you know.
Yeah,
and,
for entertainment.
they really, you know, they really care about their fans and love their fans, and just like you said, Jake, you know, he's been through hell,
Yeah.
but great guy, and
Yeah, he seems like so many of them, like Hulk and Diamond Dallas Page, like I mean, you see them on podcasts or documentaries that they just seem like
Well, I think
just
you
good
have to
guys.
love it, right?
yes,
Like
you have to,
you have to love it, and you have to love the service that you're providing, like
Right.
the entertainment that you're providing for
Right.
people. And it just seems like it probably doesn't attract a lot of jerks. Like, it's funny because they have this like big kind of like jerky personas, but it seems kind of inconsistent with like the kind of person that you would need to
There-
be
and,
to
and you
sustain
hear that with all anybody that's famous, you
entertainment,
know,
right?
like we went to meet Bo Jackson one time, and
Yeah.
they told us, oh, you know, I heard so many people say, oh, he could be a jerk, he could be this, he could be that, you know, and when we first got there, you know, you had to pay for a picture with him and for his autograph.
Yeah.
Well, people were taking pictures of him in line, and Bo Jackson stood up and said, hey, if you guys don't want to put your cameras away, he goes, I'll leave, and nobody
Yeah.
will get nothing.
Yeah.
So everybody thought, you know, not everybody, but people thought he was being a jerk.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is the way he's
Right.
making money, you know, and whether he's rich or not or whatever, that's the policy. you
Well,
know?
and this is the
Adhere
rule,
to
you
the
know, these are the
policy, right.
rules.
Yeah.
So it's not that he's being a jerk, but that's the policy, you know.
Yeah.
So when we got up there in line to meet him, the greatest, nicest guy, you know, and that goes with any kind of superstar, any famous person, you know. But what we don't understand either is that sometimes they have bad days,
Right.
Yeah.
just like me or you, and some days they don't want to be,
Right.
you know, all friendly, and you know, who knows what they're going through.
Right.
And that's with anybody. We don't never know what anybody's going through, and sometimes we just jump to conclusions or think
Yeah.
that this person's mean or bad. Well, people have bad days, you know, and they don't want to talk to people.
Yeah.
There's days that I have bad days that I'm really not very customer oriented, you know, just because I don't, you know, I
Don't talk to me.
yeah, and
Customer oriented is such
Yeah.
a nice way to put
yeah,
it.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
that's just the way it is, you know, and sometimes you have to, you know, you have to force yourself to be, you know,
Right.
a friendly person that day. But
Yeah.
but there's days that you don't, you know, you just don't want to deal with people or their crap, you know.
Yeah.
And that's not being mean. That's just the reality
being
of
Just
human.
life.
being a human, you
Yeah.
know. And so we gotta. I think sometimes we just get too butthurt, and we should just be more understanding of everybody and
Yeah.
their feelings.
Give people the benefit of the
Right.
doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think
so-
we've lost so much of that.
right.
People just so quick too.
Right.
But I think we were talking about, like, especially with that group of wrestlers, like from Hulk Hogan and Jake the Snake, like, it seems like people that I know that, like, when you achieve such a high level of success,
Mhm.
and then, because a lot of them, like, obviously they're where they are now are different phases. Like, they didn't have that anymore. Like
Right.
the point where you're making X amount of money, a ton amount of money, you're super famous, everybody's just treating you like you're royalty, to that dries up super fast.
Yeah.
So I could see a lot of those guys of being at such a high level of fame and success, and then maybe even hit bottom, and then to come out of that, they're just a humility, you know,
Right.
and a genuineness to come out of it and survive it. Not everybody gets there, but
Right.
some of the people I respect the most in life are people that were really successful and failed and pulled themselves out of it.
Yeah.
I think you come out of that just a better person.
Right.
But I could see with a lot of those guys having to, it's like sink or swim, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Well, and to go through that and to continue working in that same industry, like, yeah, I
Right.
think you're right. It does take a certain amount of humility and just being a good, you know, just
Yeah.
owning your stuff and moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with your store, are you guys selling any stuff online as well, or just in the store?
We do. I mean, more of we got a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter page. So people, if they want something, you know, I mail stuff all the time. Somebody wants something.
Yeah.
I have a .com page, but I don't know if it's because I'm lazy, but it just the .com is not as popular as it used to be either, as compared to.
We joke that it's
you know,
become that
it's-
websites are kind of becoming the new yellow pages.
Right. Yeah. They're not. You know, you get them in the mail and you don't want them.
Yeah.
You know, or you throw them at your porch and you don't pay attention to them. You know,
Right.
and social media is kind of where it's at. You know, and that's so we kind of stick to that. My .com. I did it for a little bit. I was putting stuff on there and it just wasn't, you know, hitting as much. And
Well,
so,
and I can see, especially for you, like keeping up with like what's in stock versus what's not in stock, and then adding another layer of keeping a website current. That sounds like
it's a lot. It's a lot of work, and so I don't keep up with it. I was using it for a little more advertising, but even then, it's just not. It's not, you know, the .coms are just not that great.
Yeah,
so.
we're kind of in the same zone. Have you utilized Instagram stories for selling?
Stories?
Yeah.
No, I don't even. I mean, I post like whatever I get new in the store.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys see that, and I just that's all I really do. I don't do a whole lot of social media. I'm not, you know.
You're like, I'm not an expert.
Yeah, exactly. So I just put it on, you know, I just put whatever products we get in the store just so people are aware of what we have in the store. And so people ask, hey, can you mail that? So I do. I have no problem mailing anything if somebody wants it that's from out of state, because we do have a lot of people from out of state that follow us. So we do mail that way. Or we, of course, you know, there's eBay and stuff like that, but I try to stay away from even eBay because I think they rip people off so much. You know, not just.
It's like a whole separate beast.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's probably the most that I really do as far as online is try to stay with social media, you know, and Facebook's really good.
Yeah.
Instagram's really good.
I think that's where people are for the most part.
Yeah.
So that's good marketing right now.
Yeah. Have you seen, I mean, doing it as long as you have and having the different collections and toys, I'm curious if you like start to see like consistencies. Like if I walk in and start talking to you, if you're like, oh, this guy must be into Star Wars, or he must be He-Man, like, or is it just kind of all over the board? You never know what someone's going to be into.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's hard to tell. I mean, I get people that walk in, I'm thinking, this guy don't even collect or want nothing, you know, and then they're buying a little bit of everything. You know? And so you just never know. It's hard to read people sometimes, but then
you probably get some characters.
Yeah. we do. We do. But then you got your people that you know exactly they're what they're looking for, and what, you know, there's people that are just strictly Star Wars, strictly Turtles, strictly G.I. Joes, and they don't want nothing else, you know. But then you got the people that are just all over the board, that want a little bit of everything.
Are there any collections that are stereotypical, like have more of the weird people, like between the different product lines?
He's like, I'd rather not
Yeah,
say.
I don't want to.
You're like, yeah, but no.
That's a baited question.
I mean,
He's like, you Star Wars people are weird.
no. I mean, everybody's got their quirks, I guess.
Yeah,
you know, but
yeah.
I don't see nothing too crazy.
Do you get individual, like things like we talked about Teddy Ruxpin?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have things pass through like that are hot?
Yeah, I bought a collection a couple weeks ago, and the guy had some He-Man. He had some Star Wars, and just a little bit of
everything.
little bit of everything. And then I opened one box, and there's a Teddy Ruxpin, you know,
That's
still
amazing.
in the box, you know.
Wow.
So I mean, it didn't go kind of with G.I. Joe and He-Man, so it was kind of.
You're like, hello.
I wasn't expecting to see that there.
Yeah.
So,
what are your best resources for pricing and figuring out?
You know, there's so many avenues to look, and I mean, you know, people want to go to eBay, but eBay's so all over the place.
All over the place, yeah.
So you just go to, you know, I try to go to a little bit of everything and look on this site, you know, and I try to do my research the best, you know, to give a fair price. So, you know, you look on, there's so many different avenues that you can look at, and that's what I try to, you know, do the best out of every avenue that I can find where it's been sold or where it's selling at. So I give the most fair price to the customer.
Yeah, you definitely do. Your pricing is fair. Like,
thank you.
I'm not super hip on it, but when I go in there, the stuff that at least I know and I recognize, your stuff's always well priced.
Thank you.
And then you have, I became obsessed with your clearance rack on the front too.
Oh,
I bought
my $5 table.
Yeah, I probably in the last few weeks bought all your $5 Star Wars
Oh, okay.
that were there. That's
Yeah.
probably me.
Yeah, I try to keep those full with Star Wars and
Yeah.
just the other stuff. You know, put random stuff on there. Just it's good to give people a deal and
Keeps things moving.
Yeah, it does. It does. Sometimes you got to move stuff and put out new stuff and reinvest with other stuff that's been sitting there. So
Yeah.
Well, and don't you think that there's something to be said for like the habit of people, like getting in the habit of like checking what you have on the clearance rack?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I get the regulars that come in all the time to see what's
just see what's popping.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah, you're definitely in that. Like, you are like an intensely like habitual person, so you like gain so much enjoyment from consistency of things like that.
For sure. Yeah. I think that feeds to my obsession in collecting stuff.
Yeah.
Getting into that habit and routine.
Well, because for you, it's like a lot of the time it's much more about the hunt than it is about even whatever it is. So.
Yeah. When you guys, every time I've been in there, regardless of who's working, you guys are super friendly and helpful. Like,
thank you.
a lot of times, I think I collect music too, so music probably tends to be much more
they are the worst.
elitist, kind of
It's
mentality.
my least favorite. I'll like wait outside. There's like certain record stores that you go into that I'm like, I don't need that negative energy in my life, so I'm just gonna wait outside.
The music collecting world is where, because people will have their lane, and it's like there can be this like, well, I'm into 70s 80s punk, and so if you're into, that's not as important. Or
well, and
I don't want to crap all over because I'm in that, but
but just in general, maybe not the best customer service bedside manner.
Yeah,
in general.
like although the David at Redlands Vinyl Record here, he's
awesome.
Super helpful and just
We've
well informed, and
he's
that's probably my favorite place to go. He does a great job. But
and his store is awesome.
The toy collecting world versus the music collecting world seems to be much more inclusive. And it's like, well, you're into pops. I think they're, someone might say I think they're dumb, but cool. Whatever you're into. It seems to be a much more inclusive club,
right.
And accepting to
exactly
to what you're in, and a lot of crossover.
Right, and people are pretty helpful in the toy world too about helping people get what they need, and hey, this is here, this is there, or we can trade, So I mean, I don't know much about the music world, but I know for the tour world, the people are pretty helpful, pretty friendly, and so
much more. Like for this podcast, a lot of the guests we've had on are either stores or businesses that I like that I've gone to, and usually I'm a customer first, and then.
You're like a secret shopper before we have someone on the podcast.
So I tell her, I'm like, I need to go buy more toys. I need to do some research
like,
for the podcast.
I feel so sad.
Take one for the team.
You're working real hard this afternoon.
Yeah.
Nice.
But a lot of times I'll go in and I'll ask, usually just an employee or someone. But like when I went in, and asked to get your information, was super nice and super helpful.
Okay.
Like I've done in some businesses, and they're just like super standoffish, but you have some great people in there.
My employee David, he's like family to us.
Yeah, he's the one that I talk to.
He's an amazing guy, and loves the customers, loves working there, and he probably catches stuff a little more than I do sometimes. Maybe somebody changed a sticker on one of the prices. He's like right on top of everything.
Yeah, that's like the dream employee.
Yes, if you don't have good employees in the store, you're kind of lost, and he's one of the, I've had some good employees, but he's probably the best I've ever had that really cares about the store, really loves the store, cares about me and my family. And so, that makes a big difference when you have somebody that cares.
It's a treasure.
And that's what I tell my employees, it's, the store is going to be what you make it,
Right.
I mean, it's my store. It's my life.
Yeah.
But that's what I want you to make it for you, because the store is nothing if it's only going to be what we make it, and what we put into it, and so
you are in control of your experience here.
And I think with a lot of the little stores, you're not just going in because they got good product, and I'm not bragging on me or nothing because I'm nobody or nothing, but I mean, you go in for the customer service, but for the people, for the owner, or for the, who's working there, that you go in for that experience, and I try to make every customer have a good experience and know that I care about them, and I do. There's a lot of my customers that are regulars, if they don't show up for a couple weeks, I'm thinking I could care less about the money.
Right.
Yeah.
But I care about, hey, what's going on with them? Are they okay? Because they didn't come in this week, or they're not, what's going on with them, and because I'm genuinely worried, for their, are they okay, or, is their family okay, because they become part of us, and
I think successful small businesses like thrive off of that reciprocity between that like relationship with their customer base of like, you're part of us and we're part of you, and yeah, it's great.
And if they, I tell them all the time too. I tell my customers, and of course I want them to spend money, but I mean, even if they come in and just come in to visit, just come in to talk, that means a lot to me, just to know that they're thinking about me, or thinking about the store. Yeah. So and that's important to me, that we have a good relationship, and you don't have to come in and spend money. Come and visit me. Come and say hi. And some days when they're slow, just coming and saying hi and spending a little bit of time in the store, means more than spending $5. So
when we all have this natural desire for community and to belong and to groups, and so you guys do a good job of not just having great products with good pricing, but help kind of creating that sense. Like, I went in yesterday, and I don't know if it was your wife working or
it was my wife.
And there was like a couple in there, and they were obviously knew each other and talking. It was just felt like a very homey, like, community.
We all want like our own cheers.
Yeah.
You walk in and everybody knows your name.
Yep, you guys have done a good job with that. But we're definitely customers for life as long as we live here. But thanks so much for not just for the shop, but for coming in and sharing your story.
Thanks for having us.
I'm glad we got to connect, and hopefully I'll see you in there a lot more.
Of course. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.